The information provided by Taming Lightning is designed to provide helpful information and to educate on the subjects discussed. The information provided is true and complete to the best of our knowledge and is not intended to be used without professional guidance or supervision. All recommendations are made without guarantee on part of Taming Lightning and affiliates. Taming Lightning and affiliates disclaim any liability in connection with the use of this information. Taming Lightning is supported by the Pittsburgh Glass Center, who has encouraged my exploration, research, and development of a space for plasma and neon sculpture. The Pittsburgh Glass Center is a non-profit, public access school, gallery, and state-of-the-art glass studio dedicated to teaching, creating, and promoting glass art. Glass art. We teach it, we create it, we promote it. We support those who make it. A quick update of the workshops offered at PGC this summer. In light of the COVID-19 pandemic, expect cancellations or rescheduling of workshops from here on out. At the release of this episode, the plasma class taught by Ed Kirshner, Plasma Vessels Using Glass Solder, has been canceled and rescheduled for summer 2021. And the August Hot Shop class with Patrick Collentine, It's All About the Light, is still running with 4 seats remaining. There are bound to be new updates as things progress. With this in mind, please hold off on booking your flights and hotels and keep your eyes peeled for updates by visiting the website. For more information, please check us out on the web at www.pittsburghglasscenter.org or call our studio at 412-365-2145. Taming Lightning is affiliated with the Plasma Art Alliance. Their mission is to promote illuminated plasma and glass as a sculptural art medium, foster public awareness of this art form through exhibitions, conferences, and educational outreach, and support the exchange of information related to techniques and technologies essential to the advancement of the field. PAA will serve the growing interest of this art for the mutual benefit of artists, enthusiasts, and patrons. If you're interested and would like to join, please check us out on the web at www.plasmaartalliance.com. I'd like to mention a support option for Taming Lightning, which is Ko-fi. That's ko-fi.com/taminglightning. With this, you're basically donating or giving a tip at the cost of a $3 cup of coffee, based on how you think I'm doing, and if you like the project, it's nice and supported. Your donation goes directly to the podcast for means of assisting with audio equipment upgrades, billing or hosting, software and services used in processing the audio, and future travel and professional content. You are by no means obligated to donate, but any support, including commenting and sharing, is appreciated. Welcome back, or welcome to the Taming Lightning podcast. I'm Percy Eccles II. I'm the creator and host of Taming Lightning, as well as the emerging plasma tech at Pittsburgh Glass Center. Taming Lightning podcast features a series of conversations to help expand our understanding of plasma and neon light, looking beyond its associations with novelty and sign making, and to explore the potential for noble gases as an artistic medium. The intro is Boost by Joachim Karud. Joachim is a Swedish artist who loves to produce chill and happy music, and does so for copyright-free use. Be sure to support his music by giving credit when used, subscribing, and or by donation. You can find him on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, and Spotify. Hello, Lightning Tamers. This is episode number 26, Monday with Mundy, featuring a conversation about his experimentation with making his own electrodes, recent iterations he's been exploring using dumet wire and silicon aluminum welding wire, and some other topics about gases. Hope you guys enjoy.
It's nice to be able to hybridize neon and plasma, so there's a totally smooth connection between plasma, which is the wiggly light, and neon, which is light that doesn't wiggle and is much more conductive. You know, I mean, you take an inverter, you can drive a plasma arc, 2-3 feet with a little inverter, but you can drive, 15 feet of neon with it. Mm-hmm. And so I'm into, making electrodes that. So it's just this little button of aluminum on the end of a wire, but I finally got it together. So you take a little piece of dumet, you fold it in half, you put a little bit of glass on it. The lead-free neon tube, you stretch that out, you put just a little tiny bit of glass on there, and you cook it so that the wire has a little section of it that's covered by glass. And then on the sticking out end of the wire, you cook up some of this aluminum stuff. I just do it in a hand torch with welding wire, the 30 thousandths of an inch. It's MIG wire. It's MIG welding wire, metal inert gas wire, MIG wire they call it. So I got some 4043 and I got some 4047, and I think the 4047 is going to be the way to go. But even the 4043 seems to work really well. The 4043 is an alloy number, so you can get all these different alloys of aluminum. And at first I thought, oh, I'm so cool, I'm going to use 5356, which is a 6% magnesium, and it turns out that sucks. And then I tried every known alloy I could think of, and finally I called up Radon. He's like, well, I just used 4043. It's what I had sitting around the shop. Well, turns out he's a genius. Doesn't know it, but he did a fine job. So I got me some 4043, and then I thought, ooh, it's 3% silicon. That's weird. So then I happened to just be on the net, and it was like, oh, you can get higher silicon. Yeah, you can get aluminosilicon alloys, which are used for castings. And they're good for castings because they don't form a thick oxide layer, which, of course, is the opposite of what I thought mattered. So it turns out that these aluminosilicon alloys make fine electrodes. And I've only just done some sort of superficial testing, but I think we may be on the way to kind of standardizing and making it possible to, with oven pumping, make little neons that have these little discrete electrodes that are not ugly and clunky and who knows? Why did you call me? Did you call me to carry on about foolish things like electrodes?
Yes. Anything that goes, man. This is Mundy Monday.
Well, I've been messing with electrodes since I was your age, boy.
Probably even younger too.
Yeah, right, exactly. I've been trying to find out how to make a stable electrode. So for me, the idea of an electrode that behaves well is something that's not going to eat up the dopant gas in a plasma lamp, whether it's, if you're into iodine, I hate halogens personally. I've had bad luck with halogens. But I used to use methylene bromide and bromoform and nickel electrodes, and the lamp would last a while, maybe 2 months if I was lucky. And then it would go bad, and I couldn't stop it from going bad. And so finally I quit using bromine, and I did the same with iodine. It got in my pump. It pissed me off. So I just quit using those. So now I do like Larry Albright. I said, Larry, years ago, I'm using, nitrogen. And he's like, oh, I just use pure gases. He said, I've been through enough. I don't need the trouble. Pure gases is the way to go. Pump a clean lamp, mix the gases right, and you'll have some nice effects. And I was like, oh, I want to be cooler than Larry. So I was screwing around with air, a little tiny bit of air, makes a beautiful lamp for a while, because these goddamn electrodes will always react. And even if you do the usual way, the old style, or what do you call it, the Bill Parker way, where you put the glass, you don't have an electrode in your lamp. You just put a piece of metal tape on the outside of it, or like with the plasma balls, they put that aqueduct, that carbon, it's just carbon and resin. And paint that on the glass, and then stuff a piece of steel wool up there and run a wire. And that's how the regular plasma globes are made. They don't have a metal electrode. But even those lamps eventually fail because glass does not like electricity being blown through it day after day. So I was like, all right, I want a lamp that's as reliable as the neon beer signs that I used to fix that had dates on the inside, 1963. I was like, holy, are you kidding me? 2 of these lamps work. The transformer's drooling tar, and the goddamn thing still works. You know, and those were that was in the 70s, so those would have been, 25, well, close to 20 years old. And then the neon guys were like, oh yeah, a lamp will last 75 years if you let it. 75 years? That's enough. Mm-hmm. That's okay. Or as close to forever as I can get, because I want stuff that isn't going to just poop out.
Yeah.
So what do you do? So it turns out that Georges Claude, I was reading about that, he went through hell with electrodes. He used to use nails and stuff like that. So I figured, all right, an electrode's a pain in the ass. What do you do? So I tried all these different metals, titanium and, every single metal I could possibly think of. Copper, iron, stainless, nichrome, tantalum, tungsten, gold-plated tungsten, brass, oh Lord, I don't know. I used to, years and years ago, I'd just call around and get samples of whatever I could find, put it in a lamp, and it would burn up. Everything is reactive. The other day, Wayne called me, and we were talking about stuff, and he said, do you realize that the electron temperature is millions of degrees in an electrode situation, which basically means a lot of energy is going through very few atoms at the electrode of a lamp. Mm-hmm. It's a point of bottleneck for the energy flow. The electricity doesn't mind go flying down a wire, and it doesn't mind go flying down a gas column. But that interface where the electricity sparks off the electrode and goes into the gas, that's a very high energy and hence highly chemically reactive situation. So this latest electrode with this aluminosilicon alloys, oh my God, tentative experiments have indicated good function. So about a month ago, I set up a lamp, and I put, it was a 2-electrode lamp of 4043 alloy, and I put 2 millimeters oxygen pressure in it, and I let it run overnight, and I came back the next day, I was like, oh, what's that smell? Well, the oxygen pressure had pumped away into the electrode, and it was an old PVM 300, and I had defeated the safety, and the PVM 300 transformer had arced out and burned up and stank up my basement so bad that I couldn't work down here for about 2 weeks. So the electrodes are always, so this latest thing with just a button of 4043, it's really cool because you can, in the little hand torch, I just take the aluminum wire, which melts real low temperature, and I just kind of glob it up and mash it around the dumet. But after the little bit of glass has been put onto the middle, the dumet, like you pull a tube down so that it's like a little fatter than a grain of rice, maybe 2 grains of rice fat, like 3 millimeters diameter. Mm-hmm. And then I have some dumets. They're about 2 inches long, and I think they're 20,000ths of an inch in diameter. Got them years ago. So I fold one half, and I put a little section of tube over it, and I cook that, and the tube melts onto the dumet, and it makes that little red seal. It's very pretty. Mm-hmm. If you don't cook it too hot, you got to cook it just red, not too hot. And then I cool that down, or else actually I just reach over and grab my welding wire and cook up the end of it and squish welding the aluminum, because the aluminum melts so much lower than the nickel iron dumet stuff. Mm-hmm. So you can just smush it around. It doesn't really stick, but it's like you just smush it on there and then let it cool. And the thing is, you got to make the electrode horizontal or vertically, because when you cook it up again to seal that little thing, when you cook that up to seal it into a tube, if the aluminum touches the glass when it's hot, it sticks, and then it cools down and breaks the glass.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful. You make your little setups, and then you, with my 3X glasses, you go to Ocean State and buy those 3.25 glasses. You put those on, you go cross-eyed, but you can see everything really clear about 8 or 10 inches in front of your face.
Right.
So I get those glasses and then just very gently weld the little thing in. I wonder if I could send a picture. I'm not sure how to do that.
Okay, so I see it now. So you're not even using you're just kind of globbing that on there as a little blob.
Right. Isn't that amazing?
Okay.
But you can. Well, yeah. I put up another photo on Instagram, but I don't know how to deliver it.
No worries.
Oh, well.
So which of the noble gases is your favorite to use?
My favorite is to mix everything. Oh, yeah. I know what I wanted to say. I was thinking about that. Oh, I'm going to write a book. Yeah, right. Like, I'm never going to bother. So it's like, oh, man, I got to tell stuff. And so, like, what was it, 2 years ago, we did that class out in Pittsburgh, and I was trying to think of how to tell people how I think of putting pretty colored glasses in a thing and making art with gases and electricity. And how do you go about it? How do you think about it? And I think it's a personal familiarity with the gases. Each gas has its own personality. And it's also, I think, a familiarity with the way the electricity goes through the gases. So you can mix, I always mix gases. It's not like there's one favorite. It's the interactions between the gases that make it so that you can be aware of the possibilities of any one vessel. Like, what if you make a vessel that's 8 feet long and it's only 3 or 4 inches in diameter? You're going to put in it. Well, you got to throw your arc 8 feet, and you don't want to hook it up to electric poles and have 100,000 volts going through it. So you have a power supply that'll say 80 watts or whatever, 100 watts of power. So the only gases that I've found that work in there is a bunch of xenon, maybe 30 millimeters or 20 millimeters xenon, and then neon up to 80 or 100, maybe 150. And you can change the speed of the wiggle by the amount of xenon and the neon balance that you put. I mean, I look online and see people doing xenon arcs, and it looks like xenon or xenon krypton argon mixes. And those are nice, but they tend to take a lot of electricity to drive them, and they tend to be really fast and electrical looking. Mm-hmm. And that's nice and stuff. And you can get good greens if you have a little bit of atmosphere in a lamp with some xenon and some argon and krypton, around, 100 millimeters, 150 millimeters pressure. I see everybody going for that green. I've had difficult times with green. I've got a couple of lamps that stay green, but I can't think for months at a time, and I don't think other people do that. So, it's just amazing enough to make the damn thing, let alone try to make it be archival quality where it's going to last longer than we do. Mm-hmm. I mean, like a neon light, when a good neon guy, you make a neon and put it out the door and you think, well, if they don't smash it, it's going to be there. There's a pair of spectacles I made for a place just nearby, and it's been running for 35 years. And it's like, oh, my God, that lamp is older than children. And it still works. Kind of cool. So they have plasmas that are like that. I think it's coming. That's what I'm going for. A clean gas lamp with a nice clean this new aluminum electrode. I got to do some life tests on, but I did some abuse tests where I made a small lamp with 2 electrodes, put a regular plasma mixture in there with nitrogen, and I ran the piss out of it. I grounded the other end and turned up the inverter so I was running like 100 watts through a lamp that was 8 inches long, and it got so hot you couldn't touch it. And I ran it a week, 10 days, and it changed a teeny little bit. And I thought, this might work. Because it had at least 100 times the current going through it that a regular plasma would have. Mm-hmm. So I figured, well, preliminary tests indicate these aluminum electrodes, it might make a really good lamp that's going to last for years and years and years. Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing, is you want to make fairly conductive mixtures so that you don't have to turn up the inverter and have a huge voltage drop. Andrews was here last fall, and we did experiments, and he got a high voltage probe off of eBay, and he said, really, 6 kilovolts running voltage is all you ever need. That's kind of interesting. You make an inverter in a lamp configuration, you drive it, you turn it up, and then you measure the voltage at the wire where the inverter is hooked onto the lamp. You just measure the voltage. And 6 kilovolts was as high as it ever needed to be to have a really nice arc. And if the voltage was higher than that, you would tend to see corona, the purple light around the coil, and also the MOSFETs would tend to heat up. And also, when you touch the lamp, you get zapped. And so those are practical limits. You don't want to get zapped when you touch a lamp.
Right.
Right. So it's kind of like, I think things are evening out to the point where plasma lighting is going to be the psychotic cousin of neon and have the longevity, the predictability, the dependability that neon lights have.
So when you're talking about dependability,
I'm sorry, what?
When you're talking about dependability on that and the longevity, you're basically saying that the electrodes, as we have used it so far, by taking neon electrodes and adapting for plasma, just aren't cutting it for the longevity's sake that you're seeing for the scale and the shapes. Know. You don't know?
Wayne uses them and he likes them, but I mean, I just know that I've had reactions of iodine and nickel in my lamps. Wayne swears that his iodine lamps work, but I don't believe it personally. I think that an iodine arc will change over time and very slowly get less iodine-y. But then that's Wayne, and he's got his own way of doing it, and he probably has enough iodine in his lamp where it's not going to burn out. Mm-hmm. And that's tricky. That's a whole other thing, is how much stuff do you put in? Just the recipe making of things is so subtle that you can teach. I tried to teach everybody at Pittsburgh, and I couldn't do it because my system, my little sort of sense of feel, and with plasma, you really have to waste enough gas to develop your own sense of feel of how to mix this with that, or how much argon to put in your neon argon mixtures, how much xenon you want. Some people like xenon. For the longest time, I didn't really use krypton. And then I sort of loosened up, and I realized that everything I make is a mixture of everything. And that after a while, you get used to the idea of who's going to carry the current. So you put in a bunch of gases, and after you get used to, okay, neon at low pressure is red, neon with nitrogen is orange, neon with oxygen is blue-red, neon with iodine is blue-red. And then, you know, you go on to argon. Oh, argon doesn't really do, except it makes those little really bright fizzlers at higher pressure, but then it heats up the lamp. And krypton's a little more conductive. It's nice. It'll do the wiggly line, but if you do it nice with neon, you can get dots if you do it just right, which is kind of hard. And then the xenon is the wiggly line, but if you have too much xenon, then the xenon eats up all your electricity and you can't throw the arc very far. Plus it's expensive as hell. Xenon-neon mixtures. And sometimes xenon with the krypton, the argon, and the neon, just a little bit of this and that, and kind of mess around. And you can just see wiggly line length versus tendency to branch. Then say you're going for green and you add a little nitrogen or a little oxygen, and then it goes to hell. And usually green is, for me, a lot of it is air. I notice air. My latest theory is that air, being nitrogen and oxygen, in the arc is going to form oxides of nitrogen, which are, of course, nitric acid gas. And then I think that stuff reacts with the glass. And because all of my green lamps with air in them, eventually they go to gray. They just go to a silvery, grayish thing. But it takes a long time. See, this is the trouble, is that say you've got a lamp with a glass electrode, an indirect, you know, not a metal electrode, where you put some metal tape on the outside of the tube and you drive it like that, or you sit it on a radio table and you drive it like that. That thing might take 6 months steady on to fail or to change, but it will change. And so I don't want lamps, plasma lamps, to get the reputation, oh yeah, man, you buy that thing for $2,000, it's really cool. And then after a couple of years, it pooped out. It's like, what the, come on, man. I want something that's forever. Maybe I'm crazy. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I like to think of being able to make, because I've spent so many years making stuff and basically selling my experiments, and that's not really a very wise business model.
Right.
But I personally get pissed off when things fail. I'd rather sell rock solid, like, hey, this is like a bronze, you know, this is like a stone sculpture, except it's electric. You plug it in and it acts really cool, and it'll do it, and you can give it to your grandchildren, and they're going to enjoy it too. And that, I think, would make the value of it really serious. Whereas, like, yeah, it's pretty cool, but it can fail anytime. It's like, yeah, well, I suppose I could fail anytime too. So, oh dear.
Well, there's nothing wrong with going towards that direction. It needs to be in that direction, anyways. You know, you got to make all the conditions to have the longevity that people would expect. So, even if it lasts 20 years, I say anything that lasts 20 years, it's still worth the value. I mean, heck,
good enough.
We buy computers and cars. They don't last as long as you may think they do without the conditions of the care that's needed to maintain those things. I mean, if you got the efforts of making something that lasts 20 years, then with the right care and the right user end, because the user can affect its longevity. You know, maybe you're looking at the point of this thing is like a neon sign where it can stay on for 70 years. You know, that's going to be a couple more Mundy lifetimes. So, because that's the nature of it. It's going to take a little bit while before we get to the understanding of the way that we have for neon.
Well, that's what the part that I'm working on, and I think that I'm making progress. And that's what's freaking me out, is like, oh, maybe this really does have some value here. This is kind of cool, because it used to be I would use aluminum foil electrodes, and even those work.
So there's something about the aluminum then?
Well, the idea is aluminum forms an extremely refractory oxide and will then sort of passivate. It'll protect itself in vacuum because the oxide will form eventually. So hopefully the aluminum develops this slightly ceramic coating on itself and then doesn't sputter away. And this the silicon aluminum alloy is kind of cool because it, for some reason, I don't particularly understand, it seems to form, maybe it's a quartz situation, because silicon oxide is quartz, and aluminum oxide is sapphire, corundum. So maybe it's just forming an exceedingly refractory oxide coating on itself, which prevents further sputtering of the metal.
Okay.
That's my assumption. So who knows? Partying on. I'm gonna do a little lamp working here, so I think I'm gonna go. Oh. All right, Percy. Nice talking with you.
All right, thank you.
It's fun. Call again.
All right, will do. Have a nice day. The outro is The Process by Lakey Inspired. Jordan, aka Lakey, is a Los Angeles-based artist with the goal of inspiring others to create by sharing positive music around the world. Thus, he works hard to produce music every week for copyright-free use. So be sure to support his music by giving credit when used, subscribing, and/or by donation via Patreon. You can find him on Instagram, YouTube, SoundCloud, and Spotify. Thank you for listening to the Taming Lightning podcast. I'd like to thank Mundy Hepburn for letting us record this conversation, as I also want to bring in more of these short topic episodes with our other guests. There are limitless stories and topics we can explore with this. I also want to thank the Pittsburgh Glass Center for supporting me as a place of research and inspiration, as well as encouraging me to pursue this project. And the Plasma Art Alliance, where I have access to a well of knowledge and connects me to some amazing people. If you'd like to support Taming Lightning, subscribe to the newsletter on www.taminglightning.net or follow on Instagram @taminglightning. Other options for support are donations through Ko-fi, spelled ko-fi.com/taminglightning, where you can donate for the price of a $3 cup of coffee. Links will be provided in the show notes. Feel free to share, comment, and subscribe. And as a final note, be safe, be healthy, and be strong. And I'll see you next time.